everyone, welcome back to the Colorado School of Mines Glass Shop demos. Today we'll be talking about jellyfish. You'll see the tools needed to the right as well as some new skills in this piece, which are bits, and then also most notably, you'll be working with an assistant in a larger capacity than you previously have been. First thing you'll do after grabbing your gather is go straight to the marver and start creating your cylinder. You want it to be pretty long because this is where your jellyfish legs are going to be happening. You also want to make sure that you get those sides pretty stiff because you don't want necking to start, which you'll actually see as I'm going to collect color in the next little portion. The color collecting will be happening from a straight vertical position because you'll be pushing that color from the top of the glass to the bottom in order to create those legs. Now, you did see that necking. I had to go back and fix that, which I didn't grab on camera, but once you do fix it, aka get back into a cylinder, you go start your bench work. You take our pick right there and you start pinching in that glass, the colored, right straight to the moil so that you're able to create those legs. You're creating kind of an amorphous blob at this point, and the biggest thing is you want to try to keep it on center. The more on center you can keep it, the better your jellyfish will end up going in the long run, and the more likely that your legs won't go sideways, which is a pretty critical thing when you see the final piece. So every now and then I'm also dipping that pick into water to make sure that it doesn't start sticking to the glass as it heats up. And then once I'm done and happy with the amount of legs I have, I grab some heat and then I go back to the marver. I start at a low angle, pushing that glass up, making it more uniform at first, since I did get a little bit off center, and then just rolling it. And you'll see to the left, I'm starting to increase my angle to get back to horizontal, because what I'm doing is I'm applying some slight downward pressure as well as some pulling pressure so that I can start pulling those legs up. And you may have to do this in a couple of heats. I just had to grab one right there. But I'm slowly working my way back up to horizontal. Once I'm pretty much there, I'm going to start doing a pull marver to really extend those legs, and you're going to see from that amorphous blob we started with, we're getting some legs. Now, once it starts cooling down, I'm going to start actually going to a upwards angle so that I can give those legs some curl. The way you curl jellyfish legs is by first doing some quick passes on the marver to stiffen up the sides, and then creating almost a point that you're applying a little bit of pressure to start that curl. You can curl as much as you want, it's just more of a time commitment more than anything else, but you can do this while you're waiting for your assistant to start getting your bit together. This is where we're going to cut to some bit work, and this can be done by an assistant depending on what kind of bit you want. Make sure you communicate how much glass, what kind of colors, what kind of pattern. I really wanted to have a twist on the top of this jellyfish head just to give it a little bit more pizzazz. So you're going to see the twist again, which you also saw in the paperweight video. I pretty much used the exact same clip, but you'll see me twisting it. You'll also notice that I'm doing the bit work and I was also making the jellyfish part. I handed the jellyfish off to an assistant so that I could work on this and make sure to do the demo completely. So you can always hand off your piece, or you can just have the assistant work independently on that bit. You'll see me tapping off that color, and then my next step will be getting it super hot so that we can do it for the bit application and to the top of the jellyfish head. During this whole process, the assistant has been keeping those jellyfish legs warm but not hot, and then this is what we'll do next. You want to make sure that the legs aren't moving, because if they are, you won't be able to hold it upright like I am right there. You'll notice I have my diamond shears in one hand and I have the punty in the other. Make sure you definitely have both hands on things, especially a hand on the punty. Then your assistant comes over with your really hot bit of glass and drops it right on top of that jellyfish head. You want to make sure that you cover the spot where the frit was applied, otherwise it'll look like your legs aren't connected to anything. Then I go in, make a little bit of a smush, tell my assistant to hold, and I cut it off. I use those diamond shears to help push that glass over the legs, give it a little bit more of a covering over. I grab some more heat, and then I go to the optic mold to give it those head ridges. I make sure it's pretty hot. Since the legs were so cold and that bit was so hot, you really can stay in the glory for pretty long before those legs start to move, and you don't want to stay in there that long. But you go straight to the optic mold, and then you have your nice jellyfish head ridges. Once you're done with that, you go to the marver, then you grab your second gather, and then it's straight to the bench. Now the steps are pretty similar to a paperweight, except it is a much larger gather. So you're letting that glass fall into the block, making sure that you're not giving it too much upward pressure, you're not burning out the block, so you're dipping it every now and then. And then you're also making sure that you are keeping it on center. The thing that did start to happen with this piece is I wanted to go fast, so what ended up happening was I started to put my jack line in a little bit sooner than I should have. Jellyfishes have a lot of glass in them, So they're going to keep your heat a lot longer and really maintain it as you're working. So you'll see I started to put in the jack line. It's moving a ton. So I had to come off with the jacks, kind of air marver it a little bit to get it back on center. And then I go back on with the jacks because I still have a ton of heat working with me, which in all honesty is a good thing, but also a bad thing. What I should have done to mitigate against this is I should have been on longer with the blocks to really stiffen up the glass a little bit more and then gone on with the jack line. Because like I said, jellyfish have a lot of heat, so I could have had a lot more time that I could have been patient with and then eventually put in that jack line. But you'll see me constricting it. As time goes on, I also take the jacks off every single time that my piece falls off center because you never want to put your jacks on when the piece is not on center. You'll see me angling it a little bit, trying to round out that shoulder that's formed at the top. But it's also extending my jack line a bit, so I didn't want to do that too much. Now I'm just not really applying too much pressure, but I am working to cool down that jack line. What does happen with jellyfish, because it is so much glass, if you pull that jack line too thin while your piece is still pretty hot, you're going to cause enough of a temperature differential where you could actually blow up your jellyfish due to thermal shock, which isn't fun for anyone involved, you, the manager, or even the jellyfish. So what you'll actually notice me doing is while I'm putting in that jack line, I still have a ton of heat, but I am going to go to the glory every now and then so that I can make sure that my jack line gets a little bit of heat in it while that piece is still pretty hot. You'll see that orange color still in there, even after all this time having not gone to the hole. I should note all of these videos are in real time, so this is how much heat I was working with straight from the gather. You'll see me keep putting in that jack line, still cooling it down. I'm pretty sure I'm about to go back into the hole, but it might be a little bit as well. But the whole aim of the process is just letting your piece cool down, chilling that jack line so it's ready for break off. If you break off too hot, you might get a little bit of a divot up inside your piece, which isn't great, but it's not the end of the world, especially with jack lines. So there you go. I went out of the bench, I came back in, and I'm going to cool down that jack line more after coming from the glory. You'll also notice that I keep staying on with the jacks. The piece is pretty stable at this point, so I'm really just cooling down that jack line. I likely won't need to get another heat. If your jellyfish is larger, you likely will probably have to do a couple of flashes as you're going through the cooling process for that jack line, just because it will keep holding more heat. Additionally, if your piece is smaller, you might not even need to flash. If it's about the size of a paperweight, you can treat it the exact same way. You'll also notice that you don't slump jellyfish as well, and that's just because it is so much glass, and you really want that long, elegant look for jellyfish for the most part. You'll see that the jellyfish is now pretty cool, and I went straight to break off. I didn't get a video of that part. However, it's a standard break off just like you would for a paperweight, and here is the final product once again. Thanks for watching, and good luck with your jellyfish.